is that of Talatau Junior Amone. Yeah, I don't know what the best case of action is for the Dragons. He's obviously been training full time, and I was critical of that, and I probably have egg on my face to a certain extent. Personally, I kind of wish the Dragons had taken a bit of a stand and had made the decision to stand him down for the whole season. I know that's never going to happen. That it's a results-driven business, and when there's a player available to you, you're not necessarily going to be taking a stand. You need your best players out there. So I do get that. Personally, I think it would be good for him to spend a couple of weeks in reserve grade. Jaden Sullivan's been training at 5'8" all off-season. I know we're kind of not playing junior footy now, and it's not all about what's fair and what's right and those kinds of things. But I think Jaden Sullivan at least deserves a couple of games to start in that number 6 jumper, and then Junior Moan to get a bit of match fitness, because we've got to remember he hasn't played any preseason footy at all. He hasn't even been in the mindset of, okay, I might be playing in the Charity Shield. I might get 15 or 20 minutes here or there. He hasn't even been in that mindset. So I think it would, you don't want to play in there that mentally is not prepared, even though he might be kind of physically. Especially against a big forward pack like the Titans. You have one player in there that is quite not on the mark defensively or even with ball in hand. I think it's hard. And you would know, Kurt, you've played a lot of footy, and it doesn't matter whether it's park footy or whether it's reserve grade or first grade. When you haven't been training in that position necessarily with the guys that are around you, then you can see some of the timings can be out. If I'm the coach, if I'm Anthony Griffin, I'm sticking with Jaden Sullivan and not even having Junior Moan in the 17th. As crazy as that sounds, I would give him a couple of weeks in reserve grade to find his feet, get some combinations going down in the reserve grade system. Give him a couple of weeks training with this first grade side, if he hasn't been doing that already, and then, kind of shoot from the hip in round 3 or round 4. And obviously, if he comes out, if he plays New South Wales Cup, but as the precursor at Cogra on Sunday, he scores 3 tries, he sets up 3 others then there's probably not too many other decisions you can make. But I think he's probably someone that needs to just kind of transition to the physicality of the league, and obviously hasn't been out as much as Jack DeBellin was when he was going through his court drama. But I think the safe option is to have Junior Moan at least start from reserve grade for this week, and then you go from there, Kurt.
Oh, I'm happy to agree with that, and I'm not suggesting that Amone is the long-term future 5'8" for this side, because he's still facing 5 years in jail.
Yeah, so that's a big thing. Yeah.
So I would be playing him and off the bench, even with limited football on-field football, just for the idea or the concept that what side looks more dangerous to opposition? Amone playing possibly 15, 20 minutes a game, or Mo Zumbai off the bench playing 15, 20 minutes a game. So I would be using Amone for as long as I've got him until he, faces his trial. And if he does go away, then so be it, that's gone. But at least you've got a guy that can be in your 17, 18 players that's going to fill a hole and potentially be a little bit more dangerous to defensive patterns than a Moses Zumbai. And I hate going on about this like somehow we hate Moses Zumbai, because he's a good fit for clubs because he can fill so many different positions. But right now, I think opposition teams will be rubbing their hands together, licking their lips at the potential of saying, right, well, we think the Dragons going to be the most dangerous in the first 20 minutes of the game, and then they hear that Jacob Little's on the bench. Last week, the Gold Coast Titans have already done this. They did this whole thing a couple of days ago. They did this dance with the back-to-the-wall West Tigers at one of their spiritual home grounds at Leichhardt, a similar kind of historical ground like Cogra. The Dragons got their backs to the wall, and then they get to the ground and find out that Api Coruscant is starting from the bench. Now, I'm not saying that Little is in Coruscant's class, but the defensive patterns and the game plans they would have had to stop West Tigers would have a lot of that would have revolved around Coruscant and how dangerous he could have been in the opening stages of the game. To me, the Dragons look far more dangerous across the paddock, and particularly through the middle of the ruck, when there's opportunities made for guys like Sloan, and they're going to be made by Jacob Little. So I feel like we're covering about 3 different stories here in one. But the Titans did it last week, and we'll talk about the Titans in a little bit more detail a little bit later. But they've already done this dance. They did it last week. So if the Dragons think they can just come out and and, arm wrestle and think that the crowd's going to get them home, they're going to get beaten just like West Tigers did on Sunday.
Let's move on and talk, I guess, a little bit more extensively about Junior Amone, Kurt, because, this was a news article that dropped probably a week ago, less than a week ago, and then the news became official today that, the NRL wasn't going to stand in his way, and he wasn't subject to the no-fault stand-down policy because there had been some movement in the court, and he wasn't going through the district court anymore. It was now going through a local court, so that jail term had come from, I think, 14 years down to 5 years. So that's pretty significant with the Dragons. And obviously we've spoken about, I guess, his role in the team, and we'll find out in the next few days whether he does slide back into that Dragons 17-man squad. If not this week, you'd think eventually he's going to be there and probably going to be in that number 6 jumper at some stage throughout the season. But I guess there's also the issue, Kurt, of that jail term kind of hanging over his head. So this isn't a scenario like with the Jack DeBellin case where it was kind of a no contest, and the charges were eventually dropped, and Jack DeBellin didn't have that hanging over his head. Like we saw the issues the Dragons had for those few years when Jack DeBellin was training, and I don't think we're under any illusions that it was splitting the playing group. I think that was one of the major reasons that Tyson Frizzell wanted to leave the Dragons and ended up eventually signing a contract with the Newcastle Knights. I'm not beginning to say that could be the same thing with Junior Amone, but I think any time that you've got a teammate that's involved in a criminal case like this, and a very serious one as well, like I'm no expert in law, and I'm not casting my judgment at all, but if you listen to, I guess, the legal representatives and journalists that are savvy in this kind of area of this expertise, there's a decent chance that he does find himself going to prison. So it's another thing hanging over the Dragons' head. No doubt good to have the ability of Junior Amone, but I guess how he deals with this issue around him, and how his teammates and the coaching staff do as well, and how they get him to focus could be the most important storyline of the Dragons in 2023.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that the administration for the Dragons need to be future-proofing their roster and be prepared that there is a very, very extremely strong chance that Amone's going to do jail time. And I hate to compare it to the Bellin case, but that poor girl who kind of, and this has happened so many times, across the world in so many different cases. It's, something happens, whether it happened the way she reported or not. I mean, it's kind of like it's when it's a lady saying she's been sexually assaulted in a room where it's just her and the accused, it kind of becomes he said versus she said, and it gets very murky. It's hard for me to even put into words how. Yes, that was one case and went on forever, and there was so many different power plays from lawyers and stuff like that. But I believe that it wasn't just the victim with Amone there. It was there were other tradies on the site, so there's witnesses there. There's images of someone from their house taking photos of a third party from Amone's house in no shirt with shorts running away from the scene. So to me, just looking at the reports and the stuff we've heard in the media, and of course it's all speculation because it's up to a judge or whatever to decide. But this looks like it's almost open and shut. So again, it comes back to how long do the Dragons have Amone to play? And kind of try to work their game management and their roster around that. It's not a great scenario for anyone, and there are legalities in play for the Dragons too. That they cannot just sack him before he's had his day in court, because that opens up another can of worms. And do the Dragons potentially want to fork out millions of dollars in compensation if they get it wrong? So it's a shit situation to be in for everyone involved. Particularly the victim, if it is proved that way. I don't know. I think they're just going to keep playing him, but it's up to Jaden Sullivan. This is Sullivan's spot now. Because to me, it looks like to me there's a bit of competition for spots. So if Little keeps performing and he starts to dominate that hooker role, then that takes away the conversation about should Sullivan be playing dummy half. So there's so many moving parts in this that it's really hard to